And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to episode number 30 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. This show was created as a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. My name is Tim Sohn, a 15-year cancer survivor, host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and a live streaming producer and coach for impact-focused nonprofits, businesses, and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And let us know in the chat, where are you tuning in from around the world? We would love to know. And also let us know, what is your connection to cancer? Maybe you are a cancer survivor or a cancer supporter. Maybe somebody in your family has passed of cancer, or there's a survivor in your family, or some sort of connection. We would love to know. We want this to be an interactive conversation tonight. Also, I just briefly want to remind you guys that on September 24th and 25th is the first ever in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer in-person event here in Northeast Pennsylvania. So if you're interested in receiving information, being notified on updates about the event as they come out, please let us know. You could just type yes in all caps in the comments, and I will get information out to you as soon as possible. And also, tonight's really exciting because we have a guest co-host tonight, and an amazing guest co-host and an amazing guest tonight. I am super excited about that. So before I bring our guest on tonight, I want to introduce you to my amazing guest co-host tonight. And her name is Eric Campbell. Eric Campbell serves as the executive director of the Pinky Swear Foundation, a nonprofit that provides financial and emotional support for children with cancer and their families. She is responsible for providing the strategic vision, leading a high-performing team, and ensuring seamless delivery of the Pinky Swear mission. Additionally, she served for 15 years on the board of directors of Special Love, Inc., a nonprofit that provides summer camps for children with cancer. In addition to all of that, Erica also holds a second full-time job as a mom to Amelia, age 11, and Duncan, age 8. So right now, what I would love to do is welcome Erica Campbell to the stage. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for that wonderful bio entrance. And also to let you know that this month is my 4-year survivor anniversary from breast cancer myself. So
oh my gosh,
I just wanted to add that to my bio.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. And congratulations on 4 years.
Thank you. But tonight we're talking to an inspiring guest. So I am pleased to introduce Mel Mann, who is a 27-year survivor of chronic leukemia and the longest living survivor to take the oral chemo Gleevec. And I think it's a beautiful connection, Tim, because this is the first drug that you took when you were diagnosed. So there's just a really beautiful connection between you and Mel.
Yes, I am super excited to bring Mel on the stage. So we're going to bring him on. Hello, Mel.
Hey, guys. Great to see you, and happy Cancerversary, Erica.
Thank you so much, Mel. Welcome to the show. You are an inspiration, and your cancer story and your perspective is going to have all of us on the edge of our seats tonight. So thank you.
Yes, 100%. And thank you to everyone who is tuning in tonight, whether you're live or whether you're on the replay. We so appreciate you showing up tonight. And let us know, like I said before, let us know where you are in the world and what is your perspective and connection to cancer. We would love to know for sure. So Mel, are you ready to dive into the conversation? We're so excited to have you tonight.
Yes. Yes.
You're ready. Okay. Mel, you were diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia 27 years ago, and originally told that you only had 3 years to live. Can you take us back 27 years and just how did you find out that you had cancer, and what was your gut reaction? Just kind of take us back a little bit in time, a little bit.
Yes, a little bit. Yes, back in the caveman days. Okay, it was January 1995 is when I actually found out. But what happened was in December 1994, I took a MRI because my back was hurting, and it had started hurting so badly that it was hard to get around. So the doctor had me take an MRI, and then after the Christmas holidays, I came back after the New Year's about midway. I think it was like 15 January. So it was a whole month between that test and when I got the results. But I went back in to the office, and she started reading the results, and she's reading the report, and she said, "Well, it says here that your marrow is doesn't look like the normal marrow for someone your age on the report." I was 37 years old, and she said, it doesn't. The report says that it doesn't look normal, and also that you have a herniated disc. And then because of the report, she called her technician in, and this was up in around Detroit, Michigan. And it was a small clinic, and they had like one doctor, one technician, and one receptionist out in the waiting room. And so she calls the technician in. He comes in. He takes some blood, and then he goes out and she was telling me what she thought it might be. Like it might be leukemia because of the report. And he comes back in. He comes back in like a hurry, and he's got these eyes, big eyes, and he says his blood count is 132,000. And I didn't know. Yeah, it was high. I didn't know what that meant, but I could tell from the way he said it, it was high. It was something. It was not normal. And then she said from that it's probably leukemia. But she was a general practitioner, so she says, "Well, I've got to step out and call the oncologist at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base," and that was down in about 3 hours away in Dayton, Ohio. And she goes out and comes back in, and she says that the oncologist said for him to find out what it was, I need to come down there immediately and be prepared to stay 3 days or 30 days. So I mean, my head was really spinning. And then she said, she was saying, well, leukemia is highly curable. And of course, all this was not right, but based upon what she knew, she was telling me all of this. And she says, hey, there's a high cure rate, like 80 and 90%, but that happened to be for childhood leukemia. So I was like in the shock, and my wife, I went home and told my wife, and she's like, you could tell something's wrong with me, and she's in shock, and kind of tears coming down the face. And I think my daughter was in kindergarten, so she was away at school. But I got my stuff because I had to get ready to go down to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so I got in the car, and then I drove to work, which was from where we lived another 30 minutes into a place called Warren, Michigan, Tacom. And I told my boss, and I couldn't just go AWOL for 3 days or 30 days. So I told him, and then I went on down to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I saw the doctor the next day. And as I was in the waiting room, there was a young soldier from Fort Knox, Kentucky. He must have been about 25, and he was the only one there. And he had leukemia. He'd just been diagnosed with leukemia. And I started talking with him because I didn't have access to any information back in 1995. I had an old book. I think it was like one of those books that you keep at the house. It was like a couple years old, so the information was old. I thought it was new, but the information was still old. It's not like you can get instant information, and there was no internet. Nobody really had home computers. So I started talking to him. He starts talking about the needle. It's like this big, and he's telling me that it felt like the doctor like stuck his whole hand in his hip, to get the bone marrow biopsy, because I didn't even know I was supposed to get off.
I don't miss bone marrow biopsies.
Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to get an or a biopsy or anything. I had to see blood. So I go in and see the doctor, and I said, "Can I see the needle?" And he shows me the needle and says, "Hey, do you want to take anything?" And I was down there by myself. I probably should have brought somebody with me, but I was down there by myself, and I said, "Well, no," because I didn't know what was going to be happening. And so, he did the procedure, and then he still said it's going to be a couple of weeks before he could confirm what it was. But he looked under the microscope, and he says, "Well, I think it's chronic myeloid leukemia." And he gave me 3 years to live. The prognosis was 3 years to live. And I had a 5-year-old daughter. So
yeah,
I was just in shock because I started counting 3 years, 5 plus 3. And it kept coming up to 8. And I couldn't get it. I was trying to get it to like 10, but it was like 8. So I was just in shock.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that, Mel. And I want to let you all know that we're here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. For some reason, comments are not coming into Restream, but I do see you who are watching on LinkedIn. Hello, Mark Kageyama. Hello, Ligia. And everyone else who's watching on. If I don't shout out your name, things are a little wonky tonight, but we're here and we see you. We know you're here. Let us know if you have any questions as we go through the conversation. We so appreciate you all being here. Yeah. So Erica, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah. So Mel, I can't even imagine being told you have 3 years to live and you have a 5-year-old. So this is, I call that scary, beautiful math because it really focuses your intentions. Now, you entered a couple of clinical trials before Gleevec, but what was it like? Tell us when you arrived and heard about this new clinical trial, Gleevec, and what it meant for you.
Okay, so I'm gonna back up real quick for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Because the doctor had told me that the only cure was a bone marrow transplant, and I had a sister, and she did not match, and there was someone on the registry who matched me, and being Black, it was like the previous year, 1994, there were only 8 Blacks out of 2,000 who found a match. So my chance of finding a match was like 1%.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I had actually went up to the Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, D.C., in Bethesda, Maryland, to get a second opinion about this CML diagnosis. Because, it's kind of like it's like getting a bad lottery ticket, and you just want to make sure that it's right. You check your numbers, right? I got to have a couple of right numbers, but it was that they confirmed that that was it, and that was the treatment. And meanwhile, I found out that my sister was not a match, and there's nobody on the registry, and then I said, I want to start doing bone marrow drives. And they said, well, it could be kind of hard for you because it takes a lot of mental and emotional and physical energy. But I said I was going to do them anyway. So I started doing those drives and did a whole bunch all around the country because I was in the military, and they helped me out traveling. And then I did a bunch in the cities and the local community, churches, malls, fraternities, anywhere. I just talk to everybody. Stand on the street corner. Hey, but
you powerfully took your diagnosis and went to the streets to find a bone marrow.
That's right. Yes,
literally.
And I helped. I had people at work that they formed teams. So they would do a lot of the planning, and I had people at church and my family. So it was a big team. So it was very powerful. And we did a bunch of drives. And then after a year up there, I medically retired and I came down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm at now. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I started doing drives in this part of the country, still with the military also, but civilian drives. And my aunt was putting on a drive down in a place called Columbus, Georgia, which is by Fort Benning, my wife's aunt. And that's where I met my wife at. And
awesome.
She was doing a drive down there. And so I went down to the drive. And when I got there, and it was like, this guy is like, he's a car salesman on a couple of car dealerships. He said, he came here looking for you. But he said he'd come back. So kept on the drive. And then he came back in and he said he had hairy cell leukemia and he had been like near death. And, he went out to MD Anderson and he did experimental treatment and they turned his leukemia around. I mean, this guy was like really intense. Wow. And, I could tell something was different. And, he gave me his card. He says, these drives, great job with these drives, saving lives. But I recommend that you go to MD Anderson. And then I got on the phone when I got back home to Atlanta, which is 2 hours up. And that was the next day. I got on the phone and I called the doctor, the doctor that he had seen. And this guy had hairy cell leukemia, which is different from my leukemia. Mm-hmm. But they had did something to turn his leukemia around. So I called the doctor and he picked up. It was Dr. Talpas at MD Anderson and his nurse Sheila picked up and they were like, start talking. And so I start talking to them and I said, well, come on out. So I went out and then they, he put my records, everything up and he's looking at it. Says, hey, we still have time. I'm going to increase your dose of interferon because that's what I was on. That was the standard dose. That was the standard treatment at the time, which is interferon. And
it was an injection, right, Mel?
Yeah, it was an injection either in your thigh or your stomach. You rotate, throughout the week. Yeah. And you had to keep it refrigerated and, that was no fun. But he was actually the doctor that had did the clinical trials on interferon. So, that was a good thing. We started doing that and we started doing these different combinations of drugs and we started doing different clinical trials. Like they had like this super interferon, PEG interferon. You just take one shot a week, which is good because that improved your quality of life. Instead of every day, you just take one shot. But that didn't work either after a while. So about the 3-year mark, I was still feeling the same. I would go to sleep 8 hours and wake up. It was like I didn't even go to sleep. No coffee could help, and nothing could help. And I was at a doctor's appointment.
Not even coffee, huh?
Oh no, it's a different kind of tiredness.
That's when it's serious.
Yeah. Yes. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, is there anything else?" He said, "Hey, we got this one drug that we're working on in the lab." But they were having. He said, "We're having problems in the with the animals and in their livers. But if we ever get approval to use it in humans, you'll be the first person to use it." And then his nurse said, "Well, you just told somebody else that." So he said, "Well, you'll be the second person to use it." And then I went home and I think that was like January. So I went home. It's probably like June or July when he called and said they had got approval. And then I went back out and I became the second person to use Gleevec. And at MD Anderson, there were 3 sites. There was a site at Oregon under Dr. Drucker, and then a site in Los Angeles, UCLA, under Dr. Sawyers, and with 20 people, about 20 people each for the phase 1 clinical trial. and they would kind of like put a few patients on at the same dose each month, like maybe 3 patients. And they started like 50 milligrams, and that didn't work for those 3. And then they started at 85, and I was 85, and I was the only one that worked for 85. And meanwhile, some of the other earlier folks, everybody before me was taking off, because if it doesn't work, your counts are going up quickly.
Yep.
And so they just put them back on whatever they were using before, probably something called Hydrea, just to keep them alive as long as possible. But I kept using it, and then each month they would bring like 3 people in, and they increased the dose to like maybe 140, 200, 300, 400. And then when they got to 400, everybody was 300 or 400. Everybody was showing like a good, it was showing some cytogenetic changes. And, at 200 and where I was, there was some blood changes, but now they're getting down into the DNA and, showing changes there. And then this was like after about maybe 4 or 5 months. But I had to stay at MD Anderson for 3 months. And
3 months.
90 days. That was actually longer because I had to go out earlier and find a place to live.
Yeah.
And then, my lease was kind of funny. So I stayed a little bit longer, but it was like maybe 3 or 4 months. It was at least 3 months. So I had set up 2 households. I had to buy everything and, kitchen, spices for foods, all that good stuff. But I stayed out there, and then I came home and in time for Christmas, and the rest is history. Let me see, about 10 months after that, I had ran a 26.2 mile marathon up in Alaska for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Unbelievable.
That's incredible. Had you ever run a marathon before, Mel?
Yes. I did. In fact, that was 1999. I ran one as a 15-year-old in high school, and I was captain on my cross country and track teams. And it was 1972. It was right after the Olympics, and there were really no such things as marathons really back then. But this kid from high school found a marathon because he had watched the Olympics, and he saw like Frank Shorter had won the 72 Olympics. So he found this marathon, and he convinced me to run in it with him. And nobody else would run, but I did. We did. Okay, so I did really well. And then they said, well, because there's so few marathons, I was like one of the best in the country for my age. So I mean, I think I finished like 5th. Yeah. And like in all the other high school, like it was like a guy who was like a year ahead of us, or 2 years, a senior. He finished like first in like 2 hours and 46 minutes. But they were like, people running marathons, and I hadn't even trained for it. The farthest that cross country is 2 miles, so that's what we ran: 2 miles and a mile and a half mile. So
within a year, you went from starting a clinical trial to then giving back and running a marathon for leukemia.
Oh yeah. Because I knew by then. I knew what happened was when I got back, they asked me, somebody from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, say, "Hey, would you like to be a patient hero?" And somebody, would people run a marathon for you in your name and raise money. And I said, well, I'll do it myself, because I knew what a marathon was. And
do it myself.
Right. And I raised the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Mel. And somebody I believe who is in the comments, Amanda Ferrero.
Hey, hi.
She is tuning in, and she has a question for you. She says,
yes.
How did you stay motivated during the time of the unknown?
Well, when you got a family, you stay motivated. When you got kids and you live every day, You keep hope. And in fact, earlier I had when you go out to these like cancer centers, they have libraries and stuff. And I remember opening this book, and the guy, I think he was like he was like this famous guy. He said, "Don't ever lose hope, because when you lose hope, the battle is over." So I remembered that, and so I never lost hope. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to thank everyone who's tuning in. We are here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with Mel Mann and Eric Campbell, guest co-host tonight. So excited to have you both here tonight. And I'm just looking at the comments quickly here. Bob Feathers is here. Thank you for being here, Bob Feathers. He says, as the Doobie Brothers say, taking it to the streets.
Yes, that's right. It's a street fight. Yes.
Yeah. And Jim Fuse, my partner in crime on the Tim and Jim show, he's here. He says, shout out to Atlanta.
Hey.
And Mark Kageyama is here. So great to have you here, Mark. He's a previous guest on the show, and he hosts some shows as well on YouTube and on Clubhouse around cancer also. Carl Sean Watkins is here. He says, awesome to be here and to support such amazing people. And Emily says, hello, sorry I'm late, just finished my webinar. You're never late, Emily. And anytime you show up, we're happy that you're here. We're very happy that you're all here. So thank you all for being here tonight. We so appreciate you being here. Let us know what questions you have for Mel while he's here in the chat. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But Mel, you were touching on family, and speaking about family, I know, would you talk a little bit about your daughter, and how and when did you tell your daughter that you had cancer, and what's she up to nowadays?
Okay, so when I started doing the bone marrow drives, she would go along with us to do the bone marrow drives, because that's a good, people. When you're doing the drives and you want people to give, you want to elicit some type of response from them, some emotional response, and having a child there is a good way to get a response. And she knew that Daddy was sick, and Daddy needed to find a bone marrow donor. And we would go to the trials, and I said, I'm looking for this special blood. And then she would look at the blood, and one time she said, well, it all looks the same to me. I can't see why you can't find a donor.
I love the innocence of a child.
Yeah, and then they had to take blood from her to see she might be some type of help. And the kids got those little small veins, so that was a difficult process. She knew. And then when we moved down here, the teacher came up to me one time and said, hey, your daughter says you have leukemia. She just wanted to, the teacher wanted to confirm, if that was true. I said, yeah, it could be and I started doing drives down here too. I was in the newspapers and television, because back then I had a lot of good support, and they would help find the people I needed to advertise with, to promote it, because the promotion worked a lot in conjunction with the actual putting on the drives.
Wow. You had a lot going on at that time, Mel.
Yeah.
So, you've got your family, you've got your career. And what I heard you say was, you were holding two households. How did you juggle it all at this time between work, life, housing, financial realities? It's a lot to manage.
Yes. So when I was in the military, I got diagnosed that January, and I was up in Michigan, and once I was diagnosed, and I came back and I got my diagnosis confirmed, I told my boss that I wanted to start doing marrow drives. And then there had been some other folks that had leukemia around the area before, and I believe like I think the general's kid at one time. Oh, that general's kid that passed from leukemia, and so
wow.
everybody was aware that this was a big thing, and they just got on board, and so they would let me do the drives instead of doing my actual job.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I was diagnosed in January, and then I actually was I had to take a medical retirement in July, but they let me still live on post until December of that year. So I was actually out of the military, and by then I was getting my retirement pay and everything, but I was still able to be in that community and get the support, because I had a lot of support. I would have the kids, the high school kids, because everybody was like a big family. The high school kids would help babysit for Patrice. They would man, there were freshmen's tables at the bone marrow drives. Cut my grass, they were like, they were in it because this was like something new that they had not seen before, and I just had a lot of support, and I was in the right place at the right time. And another thing is I was fortunate to have CML versus AML because I had more time. I had like 3 years, which is enough time to like get a good bone marrow routine going versus like 1 year. So that was a blessing.
Wow. Sounds like, the phrase, it takes a village.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure your daughter is better off for having all of that support and guidance from all those college kids and seeing you at bone marrow drive.
Yeah, we still see them. Those kids are grown now. Some of them just last week, they're married and their kids are graduating high school. But that was a big family. Yeah. And there's been some tragedy along the way. I remember when I was up there, my boss, who I used to go talk to, who was a colonel, and he was very supportive. His daughter actually passed from, I believe it was AML. And I remember her helping at the refreshments table. But it was, it's a cause. And he was very involved with the marrow process. Even after I left, I saw him like maybe 10 years later at some marrow thing, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, you were the first." And I said, "No, I mean like the first with the marrow drives." But actually, I was like, it started before me, but it seemed like I was the first. Yeah, but it was a big family.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's really cool, Mel, how your daughter wanted to get involved, right?
Oh yeah. She, because, and also they treated her really nice, all the folks, let her play with the stethoscope, and it was good stuff. Yeah.
And wait, Mel, you get to be a proud papa. Tell us what your daughter is doing today.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, she graduated high school. Those 3 years became a lot longer, and she went to Harvard for undergraduate, and then she came back home here for medical school at Emory, and then she went back up to Harvard for residency in psychiatry, and then she came back here to Emory to be a psychiatrist. Yeah. Yes.
So she's a doctor today. Congratulations, Mel.
She's a physician, board certified physician.
That's amazing. Yes. That's so cool.
I'm very proud of her. Yes.
Yeah.
You must be. We have a question here from Amanda. Yes. She says, how can we get more people of different ethnicities to sign up for bone marrow donation? Mel?
Well, it's a lot of education, and it's you got to have like foot soldiers. You got to have people out there pounding the pavement. That's the bottom line. You got to have like a patient, a human being out there. When I went out there, I would, they wanted to sign up because I was out there. You can't say, well, so and so needs a donor, but he's not here. And and I saw that at a friend who put on a drive, but he didn't have the patient. You need the patient who needs a donor, because he said, well, you're the patient. I said, no, I'm not the patient, because I don't need a donor. It has to be urgent. It has to be a sense of urgency to make people react. And there has to be a lot of information constantly about the process.
So now, Mel, what's your involvement today with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society?
Okay, so I've been involved throughout the years with team and training and running marathons and doing centuries, 111-mile bike ride in Tucson, Arizona.
Man, you are run, bike, walk, swim, all the things.
Not swim.
That's next.
I do that in the pool. But run and bike, yes. So my involvement also is I do community outreach. I have done community outreach in the past. I was part of Myeloma Link. It was a pilot program here, started here in Atlanta and also DC, and it spread awareness about myeloma, which affects Blacks twice as much as whites. So, we actually went out to the churches in the community, to, the community centers, senior centers, anywhere, just to spread the word about the symptoms, and to get the awareness out early, because that's really the main thing, is get, if you can help prevent stuff or not, or ease how brutal the cancer may be if you get there early. Instead of one drug, instead of 2 or 3 drugs, you can just take one drug if you get it early enough. So, that's the type of thing.
And you still take Gleevec today, right, Mel?
Yeah, I still do. Yeah.
27 years later.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And I love the connection between you two about both taking Gleevec at some point. And Tim, now you get to humble brag here about your amazing work with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So,
oh gosh,
Tim, congratulations on your recent award and your fundraising.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate it. I recently won the Mission Award from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Yes.
Thank you. And it was specifically for this 24-hour live stream fundraiser we put together called Open Your Hearts and Wallets. And 14 live streamers from Alaska to the United Kingdom and everywhere in between came together and put on this this live stream fundraiser for LLS. So it truly took an amazing community to put this all together. And thanks for shouting me out, Erica.
Absolutely.
That's very important, because we need like 1,000 of you, of Tims.
Yes, we do.
Because,
yes, we do.
The money, the Gleevec was funded through that type of funding, and I remember they got a big grant before, like at least like halfway during, maybe a year into the trial, maybe at the beginning of the trial, it's a big grant to continue with the research for Gleevec, and so that's very important.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you for your dedication and service.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you for your dedication and service, Erica, with the Pinky Swear Foundation and all that you do.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Also,
takes a village, people.
Amen.
Definitely. Yeah. So Mel, what would you say to your younger self sitting in the doctor's office, getting that first diagnosis at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? Other than a fear of dying, what other fears did you have to conquer?
Okay, so when you get a cancer diagnosis, there's always going to be shock. So there's not a lot you can say.
I remember.
Right. I don't care what type of cancer. If you got like the so-called good cancer, there's no such thing as a good cancer. So you're always going to have that shock. So let's say and this is from looking back, just kind of relax, breathe, and remember as much as you can, and then research do your own research. You know, and back then it was not a lot of research. I remember I had to go out and buy a laptop, not a laptop, they didn't have laptops, but a desktop. And then I had to get the guy down the street to teach me how to use it. And so he taught me how to use it, and still wasn't much to find on the internet about mine. But nowadays, there's a whole bunch of good sites. And another thing I would tell the person diagnosed with cancer is get with the organization that is like over your type of cancer. Like for us, it's LLS. And then whoever the breast cancer folks are, you get with them because they can do a lot of the legwork and research for you. And that saves you a lot of time and a lot of mistakes that you could make.
Yep. It's always good to reach out for resources and support.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, if you get with the right people, then that's going to ease your journey right off.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so important to be educated, right? Mm-hmm. Especially after you're first diagnosed, you really have, like, you're not prepared for a cancer diagnosis, right? You're not educating unless you're in the medical field already. You're not properly educated on what to expect from cancer, right? And everybody's journey is different.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mel, what I heard in your entire journey here is that you consistently held on to your never give up attitude. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I was young, which makes a big difference to me because when you're young and you have a young kid, then you worry about that young kid, and you worry about your wife. Let's see, I think we've been married. Let's see, that was 84. Probably about maybe 11 years then. So it's like 28 now. But you worry about your family, and that gives you something to live for. You know, and then you have your other family, your mother and your other immediate family, and you worry about them. So, and a part of my never give up was I ran cross country and track, and you had to go through a lot of pain to finish those races. You're running through pain.
Wow.
And that's what the doctor told me. My first doctor at Wright Patterson. He said, "Hey, he said you'll be okay because you can take a lot of pain. After the aspiration, right?" He says because they're like, says don't worry too much because you can take a lot of pain, but no. But that's part of it. I never give up.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of people that would have just sat at home, and instead you went out and inspired a bunch of bone marrow drives. And, ultimately that's how you found the most successful clinical trial.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I had the right tools to do that because I had been trained in public relations and
there you go.
I thought I noticed you had a background in journalism and PR. I read somewhere.
Yeah. I did that, and then I was a recruiter at a recruiting company, so I learned how to recruit people and not to take it like personally, because like if I talk to like 100 people and I got 10 to join, I was happy, but somebody else would be like upset. But me, I know 10's are good. I just have to talk to more people to get 20. So I didn't take anything personally, and I would talk to the other ones again, and then because you never really get a lot the first time, you just keep trying. So I had those skills. They're kind of like sales skills. So I had those skills, sales and PR. So that held me in good stead.
Yeah, never give up, and the self-advocacy. So I think that's a really powerful combination. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. Self-advocacy is so important. We talk about that a lot on this show. And so everyone, we're here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. Eric Campbell as guest co-host tonight, and Mel Mann down below. He is our amazing guest, and we're here talking all about his cancer journey tonight. And yeah, so Mel, what does legacy mean to you?
Well, legacy as far as cancer and leukemia, for me means doing my part of the job. And when I was first diagnosed, I thought my legacy was with the bone marrow part of it, because in order for that to work, because I was told no one ever finds their own donor, that I would just have to go out and recruit as many people as I could, and then somebody else, other people would have to be doing it at the same time, and then I would find donors, and they would find donors, and maybe they would find my donor. So just doing my part of the calls, and then as it continued on, and we got into clinical trials, and my legacy is with informing people about the value of clinical trials, and always like look at that as an option, and also about just the preventive and the things that they could do to help their illness. So my legacy is with bone marrow drives and clinical trials, and being with Gleevec, that certainly inserts me in the history. And the average age for when I was diagnosed, the average age for CML to be diagnosed was like 64, and I was 37.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a bad thing being so young, but it was a good thing because I could stay around to show folks that you can live a long time with it.
Yeah.
So that's good that I can, because now they know that you can live 20 years. Like when I was going through, it was like, okay, you got 3 years, okay, you're living 5 years, you're living 8 years, you're living 10 years. Oh, you people can probably live a normal lifespan, and that's the prognosis, a normal lifespan. But I didn't know that as I was going through, because I was the first one.
Yeah. So that is your legacy, being the first one.
Oh yeah, that one of the first ones, and the longest living, and I would say my body of work, with all the different organizations, my body of work with spreading, being Exhibit A for clinical trials.
Yeah.
And there's so many people on the team, and but I'm glad to be part of the team.
Yeah, I love that you called yourself Exhibit A.
Yes.
All right, Mel. So, I mean, that is true. I mean, I think your legacy is around all of the bone marrow transplants, bone marrow registrations that you got. And think about how many people you probably were able to make a match for by those significant number of bone marrow drives and, these clinical trials. So I'm going to geek out here because for those of you who don't know, Mel was recently, you were at the White House, Mel. You were invited to the White House for the relaunch of the Moonshot Initiative, and because of your legacy. Yes. So please tell me all about that, because that sounds like just so inspiring. So tell us about that.
Okay, so I got the invitation, and this was back in February to go up to the White House. And the funny thing was, like in February 1995, I was at I stood out in front of the White House because that's when I got the second opinion from Walter Reed, which said my life expectancy was 3 years when they confirmed it. So here I am 27 years later. And that, 27 years later, and I'm back in front of that White House. And now I'm going inside the White House. Yeah. So that was like mind blowing right there. So the Moonshot Initiative actually started first in 2016 under Vice President Obama and Vice President Biden, and that was to insert a lot of initiative and efforts into the goal. The actual goal of the Moonshot Initiative is to decrease the rate of cancer by 50% over the next 25 years. That's the goal. And that is possible because the rate of cancer improvement has improved. I was told like 20% over the last 20 years. If you look at the numbers, I think currently there's like 600,000 people diagnosed in the U.S. With cancer. So if you decrease that, 300,000. But all the new therapies, if you look at the targeted therapies, such as Gleevec, which changed the concept of how cancer is treated and diagnosed, and you look at the vaccines, and you look at immunotherapies, and all CAR-T, and all these things, and that is what these, like, I think it was like 100 people, scientists, researchers, doctors, and cancer advocates, people that lead Leukemia Lymphoma Society and American Cancer Society and the breast cancer societies met up and decided, hey, let's continue with this plan to pool the resources, get information out there early, work on preventative stuff, work on collaboration, sharing information, and putting an end to as much as we can to this very terrible illness.
Yeah. And what was the most exciting thing that you either heard or saw or talked about when you were at the White House?
I was excited to see our leaders come in, President Biden and First Lady and the Vice President and the second gentleman, or first, I guess, whoever, I guess the second. I was excited.
Whenever he goes by, yeah.
I was excited to see some of these researchers, and just that everybody, the energy of working in this cause, and there's so many people that are involved in this cause. Because we also have the people who sponsor the drugs, who are very important, and the people who work for them and who manufacture the drugs. I mean, it's just one big team, and no one can do it alone. And just knowing that everyone has set these goals, and that they're going to go for it, and that's the most exciting thing for me, because you got to set big goals and you got to go for them.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say #teamwork. So
yes.
100%. Well, we want to thank all of you who are tuning in. We'll be wrapping up our conversation soon with Mel. It feels like we just got started, Mel. Would you mind if we do a 4-hour show? Is that okay with you?
Yes. Like a 3-hour show. A 3 hours.
3 hour. We'll compromise at 3.
Yeah, the time you have to run a marathon. Because
Eric, are you good with that 3-hour show?
Oh, for sure. No worries.
No problem, right? Oh my gosh. I just want to go to the comments for a minute before we head to our last question. And we're so grateful for all of you who are here. Ashok says you turned a malady into a melody.
That's a good one.
I like that. I might have to steal that one.
Right? Ashok always has mic drop moments during the show. Thanks for that, Ashok. Stefan says, do you hear that sound? That's all of us cheering you on. Mel, 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 Mel. So inspiring.
I like that sound, yes.
Right? Terry Tomoff says, full circle moment. #full circle moment.
Yes. That's very good.
Love you, Terry.
Yes. Ashok says, a legacy is what you leave behind that never leaves.
Yes.
Yeah. Ivan K says, Mel, very much appreciated for giving back and sharing your story.
Thank you.
And lots of congratulations and yays and #leading by example, Mel.
Thank you.
Ligia says your daughter is truly phenomenal.
Thank you.
Ashok says the world needs more psychiatrists. So glad your daughter did that. I've been at it 36 years.
Yes. It's very important. Yes.
Yeah.
Amanda has a question. She says, how important do you think patient advocates are?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are very important because they actually are the long pole of the tent. They you can do a lot of work, but if you get to talk with the patient, you can be way off in left field because the patient is actually the one who is experiencing the side effects. Hey, this drug is making me nauseated, or this drug is doing this to me, or it's making me forgetful. You got to ask the patient, what can we do to make this drug better? Like when I was in the Army, I worked in research and development for the infantry, but I had to be an infantryman for years before I could tell people what the infantryman needed. So the researchers will make better whatever for the infantryman. Yes. So the patient's the same way. He's advocating for better things for the patient and the patient point of view.
That's so true. That's so true. So Mel, are you ready for the last question? This is a tough one.
Okay. No math, right?
I'm just kidding. What advice, Mel, would you give to anyone recently diagnosed with cancer as a survivor yourself of 27 years?
I would tell them to maintain hope, because like I said before, without hope, things get a bit tough. And there's constant research that is going on, and to hang in there, because the little improvements will help get you to the big improvement. And the big improvement will be the one like perhaps Gleevec, which will save your life. And the rate of a new drug approval has increased tremendously over the past couple of years. And even if you look at the blood cancer drugs that we're currently on, first there was Gleevec, but now there's 4 or 5 types of Gleevecs that are better than Gleevec.
So many options now. Yeah.
Right. And then so many blood cancer drugs that have been approved in the last 3 or 4 years, like 30 or 40. And normally it's just a couple. So, just keep hope, hang in there and do what you're supposed to do as far as, do healthy things like maintain a healthy diet. And if you can, get a little exercise and stay hydrated, those type of things.
Yeah. That's all great advice. We so appreciate your time, Mel. Erica, is there anything else you want to say before we bid adieu to Mel? Although I really just want to keep this conversation going.
I know. Mel, I just want to say thank you for building that legacy and for powerfully standing for not only yourself and your family, but for all cancer patients. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wait, is this the dancing segment of the show?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And it's, the whole team's here with me, not just me. Those people, those little girls who at the refreshment table, they're still here. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mel. We so appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Erica, that was a pretty amazing conversation, didn't you think?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And, I just think the connection between him taking Gleevec and then that being the first drug that you took, that just is like, as Terry said,
crazy?
The full circle moment.
That's so true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So thank you everyone for being here. We are looking for guests who want to be on the show. Survivors, family members, authors, organizations. Eric is going to be a guest in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. So definitely don't miss that show.
Going from co-host to interviewee.
Yes. all sorts of perspectives going on here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer.
Yep.
Yeah. So Erica, do you want to tell everyone who our guest is for next week?
Yeah, this one actually means something to me. Our guest next week is Irina Borisova-Yasikamic. Sorry, I butchered that again. Yasikamic. She will have a conversation about how to support loved ones suffering from cancer. Irina's mom passed away from metastatic breast cancer. And my mother also passed away from metastatic breast cancer. So this is a conversation I think will mean something not only to me, but to so many people. So let's all show up and support her next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Definitely, definitely. And thank you so much for joining me tonight, Erica. It's been great having you here.
Oh, it's been an honor. And feel free to give me feedback, everyone.
Yes. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. We're going to take the show out the same way that we came in, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.